Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching, because I don't like the touching. Welcome to Friday's edition of the dceu Daily. And my point today is, everyone's got it wrong. Since 2016, everyone's been debating, is Batman v Superman a great movie, a good movie, or a rubbish movie? That isn't the debate. Batman v Superman is a really well-made film, just like Man of Steel is. Now, they're both films that are not everybody's cup of tea, and that's fine. Everyone is allowed to have their opinions. I don't think that's the point, really, because I want to talk about Batman v Superman in today's dceu Daily and say it's not that Batman v Superman isn't a very good film, but it's where it's situated within the franchise. Was Batman v Superman, was it the best idea to have a team-up movie, right, a crossover, for its second movie? For me personally, I loved the film. I loved that. You guys know that. So don't get triggered. Don't get it twisted. My point is, I think it's situated totally wrong. Now, of course, they want to kill off Superman. They want a relationship between Superman and Batman. They've got that in the comics. But this could have been a really special franchise if Warner Brothers just were more patient. You had the Superman film. It was very controversial, but you had it. I love it. The key was in the ignition, and we started, right? Some people loved it. Some people hated it. Shouldn't they have really started with solo movies first, right? Shouldn't movie number 2 of the DCEU been a Batman solo movie? Come on, whether it's old Batman or young Batman, right? What were they really playing at? Situating that movie as, and it's weird because you've got a Man of Steel kind of sequel and you've got a kind of a crossover movie at the same time. But wasn't it a bit soon for a Man of Steel sequel? Just after we just had a Man of Steel movie, right? And it seems to me that Warner Brothers seemed a bit nervous because they expected Man of Steel to make more money. Now, I think the money for Man of Steel is great. At the time, it was very competitive for other superhero origin movies, but it was Superman. And they expected more, just like they expected more from Superman Returns to make more than 400 million globally, or should I say 370 million globally. So there's no question this was a studio decision to do this film, to try and, justify their Superman, try and make him a little bit more popular, stick Batman in there because people were still hot on Batman after Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. So there was that. And of course, a very controversial decision to cast Ben Affleck as Batman didn't really go down well with anyone. Even people who love BVS, who love Affleck now as the character, even those people were very nervous about that casting. But again, that's not my issue. It's where the film is situated, right? I want you to think about this. You've got Snyder, you've got his vision. I'm not asking to change that. I'm saying that if you have Man of Steel, you have Batman, you have a Wonder Woman solo movie, Cyborg, The Flash, Green Lantern, Cyborg, you do all that first, right? And in the middle of that, obviously, you need another Superman film. Now, what I would have done was, I would have cameoed Superman in every single one of those solo films. So when you get to the end of those solo films, then, right, you bring him back in this Batman v Superman movie, partly a kind of sequel to Man of Steel, right? That works. You have it after all the solo movies. And then if you want to do that CCTV footage, if you want to make Batman v Superman how it's made, it doesn't really matter to me because I really enjoy the film. But I think it actually makes more sense. We needed to get to know the other leaguers first, right? But because they were in a rush, it's a bit like Justice League, really, Batman v Superman. They held it out to dry. They threw it under the bus because they were in a rush. Really, it's interesting to me because I'm sure it wasn't Zack Snyder's idea to say, oh, I know, let's do Batman v Superman first. He had his arc But for me, it makes more sense to have the solo movies first, right? Because by doing good solo movies, right, then if you want to kind of if you want to self-indulge in a film like Batman v Superman, right, as a creative like Zack Snyder, David S. Goyer, and Chris Terrio, you can do that film because by the time you've done the solo movies, everyone's in love with Batman and Wonder Woman and Cyborg and the Flash, and then you can get away with it. But doing such a self-indulgent movie, again, that I love, but it is a self-indulgent movie, right? It isn't what people were expecting, and the way it was marketed was it was going to be a popcorn chomping fight movie between two of the greatest superheroes of all time. No, correction, they are the greatest superheroes of all time. Even though Christopher Nolan says Batman isn't a superhero. I get that, but he's from the comics, he's a freaking superhero, right? So, as I say, I think one of the reasons, right, and, you know, you can agree with me, disagree, that's what the comments are for. Please comment down below. This is a really interesting subject for me. Think about it, right? So, I believe, and what I'm actually claiming is, if Batman v Superman comes after the other solo movies, I think it would have been a hit. I think people would have got used to that style. You would have had all these different solo movies. And then you have Batman v Superman. And people are going to be saying, well, yeah, we've seen Batman. And you're kind of looking forward. It's a build-up to Batman and Superman meeting. You could even do the marketing, couldn't you, if you wanted to? You could have said, soon, they will meet. And so you give a slate, right? You can say, after these adventures, Batman v Superman will meet. 2 days, 20 days, 200 days till Batman and Superman meet. It would have been amazing, right? You could still make the same film. That's the thing. But you've introduced the franchise. But because of Sujihara, because he was greedy, because all he could hear in his ears is MCU this, MCU that, Disney are making this, Disney are making that. But Disney made the MCU a success because they said to one very clever man who already had the keys to the kingdom, by the way. They didn't give him, you know, Disney didn't give Feige the keys to the kingdom. Marvel Studios was already full without Disney. But they saw the success of Iron Man and Iron Man 2 and they thought, you know what? There's potential here. And they took a gamble and a punt and it worked. But they said to Feige, you know what? You're doing a great job. You keep doing it, what you're doing. And we'll just keep having your hair. Unlike what they're doing now. This is how empires are destroyed. And this is how the early DCEU under Zack Snyder and his 5-art plan was destroyed because the studio kept on interfering. And I don't like it when people say that, but the truth is, that is the hard, ugly truth, that Kevin Sujihara just wouldn't leave it alone. But if he actually allowed people who understood film, who understood superheroes, to plot the course, to have these solo movies, then Batman v Superman would have been appreciated because the odd tone of it, and also I've said before, they should have told the audience that we were building up to kind of a Superman Injustice saga. I think that would have got people even more pumped. They lost it in the marketing. Tell people what Batman v Superman is in the marketing. Tell people we're heading for an Injustice saga. And I tell you what, you will be making money, you will be popular, and we wouldn't have had the divisive nature. You tell them for a Man of Steel, this is an injustice. We are building up to an injustice story. And I tell you something, people would have been pumped. But as I said, you start with Man of Steel, you do all those solo movies, then you do Batman v Superman, and then after that, of course, you do Justice League. But if you want, you can actually do a little Shazam movie, can't you? Before Justice League. And then you can have Shazam in the Justice League as well. You could have done anything, but nothing was thought through. Because and there was another problem, of course, and Grace Randolph did identify this, and I did have a go at her about it, which got me blocked, as you all know. But who was in charge? Jeff Johns? Zack Snyder? Who was running this thing? Too many cooks spoil the broth. And it wasn't the cook's fault, because the people, Kevin Sujihara, should have said, right, you're in charge. But what they did was they gave Nolan the Godfather role. He brings in Snyder, and it's all a mess. It's all what might have been. And why am I doing this video? Because we pretty much know Henry Cavill will never play Superman again. And it's sad. And it's a shame. Because I don't believe, even for Henry's Superman, it makes sense to have Batman v Superman straight after Man of Steel. Now we have that great kind of, we have that, we have Batman, we have Bruce Wayne seeing the Battle of Metropolis from his angle, from his point of view, which is brilliant. And by the way, you could still do that if you wanted. You could have a little flashback scene, and you could still build. It doesn't have to be straight afterwards, does it? So nothing that they did in that film had to be torn down if you waited to after the solo movies. I think it's very interesting. Of course, this is just speculation. We don't know what would have happened, but I do think the course could have been plotted a lot better, but there was no one to plot out the course. Who was going to plot out the course? Zack Snyder, a writer-director? He doesn't know how to schedule films. Christopher Nolan, the same. There was nobody there, and it was obvious that Geoff Johns, as much of a genius as he is, as much as a hero to me he is, it wasn't his strength, which he's now admitted, to plot a course. So there was nobody there to plot a course, and that was the problem. So what happens in the end? You have Kevin Sugihara coming in. The more films that get released and get, tarnished by the critics and get criticised negatively, you have got a problem. And ultimately, we reached that kind of breaking point with Justice League, where Sugihara comes in and says, "Fucking hell, they're hanging us out to dry here." The pundits and the critics, they say we're too dark, we're too bleak. Snyder gives his script, and he can see that Wonder Woman chops off Steppenwolf's head, and Darkseid's treading on the damn head, and Sugihara's melting down, and you can't blame him. Not because I don't like what Zack was going to do, and I don't like what Zack did. That's not the point. As a leader of a business, you're thinking people are judging us and saying they don't want to watch this, but we're doubling down on it. So it became a very problematic situation, but Sugihara was to blame from the beginning. And whoever brought in Nolan and then Geoff Johns and had all these different people in charge, and no one knew who really was in charge, who was plotting the course, because nobody was plotting the course. Everyone had ideas for the films, but nobody had a plan. Feige had a plan from the very beginning. Whether you like the MCU, whatever we think about the MCU, there was a plan. They stuck to it. They did the solo films. They did the first team-up, which really, that first team-up movie, Avengers Assemble, is the reason that is the biggest franchise out there right now, right? That's the reason it worked. It worked because they had a plan, and we didn't. We didn't have a plan. So, and then you come to Walter Hamada. We now know who's in charge. He has the plan. You've got the New Line Cinema team behind him. There's a plan. And the plan is to make individually character-focused films and give the directors responsibility, not just on the set, but on social media and in public. We've seen James Wan. George Reeves, sorry, he's dead. Great Superman, by the way. Matt Reeves was on Twitter again early this morning, teasing, showing pictures of things. I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but he was just teasing us. He's literally doing with the Batman what Kevin Feige does with the MCU, with all these teases and pictures. It's fun, and it's what fans like. And I'm really excited. I'm really glad in Matt Reeves we have this person with a sense of humour who's going to keep on posting pictures. He wants to excite us, right? So this is what Walter Hamada is now doing. He's saying to the directors, I want you to direct, I want you to make your movie, but I also want you to go on social media and interact with the fans, get a good relationship with them. So unlike Marvel, where it's the head, Walter Hamada isn't going to come on Twitter and tease people. It's the people making the films. And in that element, it actually works. And this is why the new dceu is working and the old one didn't. Because too many cooks spoilt the broth. Nobody had a plan. You have some very talented people there. But again, you can't have too many people pointing in too many different directions. But to answer the question, in my opinion, Batman v Superman came too soon. It should have been the final movie just before Justice League. You could have squeezed the Shazam just after that as well. But basically, I think it was in the wrong point in the franchise, and I think it was too soon to throw such a random movie in and expect people to just say, wow, this is amazing. And it was amazing. And I loved it. So what a shame what might have been. But I'm very excited for Walter Hamada's plan. I'm very excited for all of you to watch Joker movie, because it's not just about the DCEU now. It's about the DC world of movies. And it's very exciting. I am sad that it didn't work out with Snyder's plan, because I think Snyder did have an awesome plan. And if the movies were scheduled better and they left him to actually run the thing, maybe things would have been different. But I still want to see the Snyder Cut. I want to see the Snyder Cut, and I hope then we can move on and see what Walter Hamada's got planned, because we're not getting Zack Snyder back. And that's the sad, sorry state of the situation. But we all have a right, especially Zack and Deb, to finally put out the real Justice League. And let's hope that happens.